What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be picking up where I left off yesterday, as promised, by reviewing the game between the Boston Uprising and Paris Eternal. Yes, I know I said I was going to review the Florida and Houston match as well, but I just don't have the time to make a super long video today. I hope that anyone who was really looking forward to me reviewing that game can forgive me. I'm really sorry, but this video is already going up far later than I wanted it to, as it is, and I can't really afford to wait until tomorrow to make it. But anyway, that's enough about me apologizing up and down over and over again, so let's get started by talking about this Boston and Paris matchup. But of course, let me give a quick spoiler warning first. You guys already know the drill by now. If you have not seen Sunday's matches and you wish not for me to spoil them, then click off this video right now or forever hold your peace. Okay, hopefully you left already if that applies to you. Now then, without wasting any more time, let's get started. So in this match between the Uprising and Eternal, Boston once again found themselves having to reverse sweep in order to come out on top. While it's not really a surprise to see Boston add yet another team to the I just got reverse swept club, it's kind of ridiculous that they keep on having to fight their way out of this corner that they backed themselves into at the half. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, but exactly half of Boston's wins this year have come in reverse sweep fashion. 4 of their 8 wins have come from them being down 2-0 at the half. Their victims who failed to finish them off include the Dallas Fuel, Atlanta Reign, Toronto Defiant, and now the Paris Eternal. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. While it is impressive to mount such an impressive comeback, it's also kind of worrying. If you can only consistently play well in one half of a game, then you're kind of in trouble. That scrappy, never give up attitude is a great thing to have, but you wouldn't have to give yourself and all of your fans heart attacks every single game if you could just play the way you do in a second half on every map. Also, good luck trying to pull off a reverse sweep against a top team in the league. Some of the mid to low tier teams may lack the ability to finish off an opponent, but some of the really good teams won't even give you a chance to come back once you're in a hole because they show no mercy. They keep their foot on the gas until it's all over. Okay, that's enough about my concerns for Boston. Let's go over how this game went. In game number 1 of the series, we would travel to Oasis. Starting off on Gardens, it would seem that Boston's struggles would continue as Paris remained in firm control for most of the map. There's no other way to explain it. Boston can only gain 35% capture progress as Paris took the first round of Oasis with ease. The Uprising once again showed a Doomfist Sombra look here like they've been doing a fair amount lately, and it found very little success. Blase really couldn't get much done on the Doomfist. It was honestly kinda sad. Boston had to commit a lot of ults just to flip the point once. Round 2 of Oasis would feature City Center, and we would pretty much just see more of the same domination. The Uprising got rolled even harder on this section of the map since they weren't able to secure the point until Paris had already gained 95% capture progress. Both teams actually ran some pretty interesting comps here though. Boston started by showing a triple support, double DPS, and wrecking ball strat, and as soon as Paris saw this, they immediately swapped off goats. Instead, they opted to run triple tank with a Sombra, Ana, and Lucio. But what makes the Paris comp so interesting is that Nico was playing Roadhog. The cool thing about all of it was that Hog actually proved to be quite effective. The hook pressure on Pharah made it so Color Hex had to play further back than he would have liked to. Soon after, Blase swapped off Brigitte and onto Tracer instead, and while Tracer can be effective on Oasis, the look that Paris was showing me made me question the pick. It's hard for Tracer to do what she wants when there's a Roadhog hook and Sombra hack that can completely shut her down. A big problem during this part of the map in particular was RCK. I kid you not when I say that he had EMP for the entire round. He never used it once. I understand being patient in order to maximize the potential value you can get off EMP, but there's such a thing as waiting too long, you know. Even if his first EMP wasn't good, he definitely could have built at least one more if he didn't wait so long. After a very one-sided first map, the Eternal looked to keep this level of dominance up on Volskaya Industries. Paris used their typical Sombra Goats comp coming into their defense, while Boston opted to run triple DPS Wrecking Ball. The Uprising did capture point A on this map, but it was not easy. It took an overtime push to finally break through. On Objective B, we saw Sombra Goats versus Sombra Goats, and although Boston fought hard, they were only able to get a little bit more than 2 ticks of progress. On the Eternals attack, they chose to play 4 DPS with a Wrecking Ball and Mercy, and only after about a minute and a half, they were able to take point A while Finzi clicked some heads on Widowmaker. Objective B proved to be a bit more of a challenge, but eventually, Boston was overwhelmed as the Eternal took a 2-0 lead in the series. It seemed like the Uprising were all but finished. They were getting dominated, and it was hard to imagine them coming back. They were at the lowest of lows. This team was about to lose a 7th straight game, if you count their loss against the Justice at the end of Stage 2. But then, in typical Boston fashion, they slowly but surely clawed their way back. On Eichenwald, the Uprising resorted to multi-DPS Wrecking Ball yet again, but this time it actually found great success. Boston would stick with Blase and Doomfist for quite a bit before finally switching on to Brigitte during their run at point C, and even though it happened in overtime, they were able to eventually push the payload through and finish the map. Fusions in particular had a really good showing on Eichenwald. He landed some nice shatters and capitalized on the extra damage he received from getting nano boosted. On Boston's defense, they decided to utilize a single tank Orisa with Pharah, Sombra, and Widowmaker, but Paris ran over them with Slambulance. The Eternal actually continued to roll with this comp all the way until the beginning of point C, where they decided to switch on to normal goats. Eventually, Paris would also cross the finish line and complete the map, which meant that we were going into extra rounds. On their attack, the Uprising once again chose to play multi-DPS Wrecking Ball, and it's actually really wild what happened on point A. They were down team members for almost the entire fight, but Blase popped off like an absolute madman to keep his team's hopes and dreams alive as they captured point A. Although they ended up making a very minimal amount of payload progress, it ended up being just enough. The Eternal would also unlock the payload by winning a battle in the GOATS mirror match, but they couldn't win the final fight that would have given them the map and the series. After getting the first pick onto Kelix, Fusions countered with a massive shatter that allowed him to take out Grey. After a scrappy battle where the attackers had spawn advantage, the Boston Uprising were able to extend the match. It was as close as you can possibly get, but they were still in it, and they made sure to make the most of that on Dorado. Their opponents decided to use a Mei, and they decided to counter that with a triple DPS Wrecking Ball comp. Blase played some Junkrat, while RCK was on Hanzo to mow down the Rhine Shield and Maywall as quickly as possible, while ColorX provided aerial pressure on Pharah. Eventually, RCK would go back to Sombra, while Blase would make some more clutch plays on Doomfist. It would be in overtime, but the Uprising were able to finish the map. When the two teams swapped sides, Boston insisted on using some more single tank Orisa comps, but this time with Blase on Pharah while ColorX swapped onto Widow, and it actually nearly full-held Paris. It wasn't until a crazy and very unorganized final fight in overtime that the Eternal were able to keep the payload moving. On point B, Danye took over on Widow by making some nice plays to shut down Color Hex. Another interesting thing to point out is that Nico played a fair amount of Roadhog again until very close to the end of the map. In the final few team fights, we saw some Goats versus Goats action, and while Paris came very close to pushing the payload all the way through, Fusions put an end to their efforts by landing a clutch 3-man Earth Shatter. The Uprising had successfully extended yet another game where they started off down 2-0 to a map 5. It all came down to Nepal now. Boston was 2 rounds away from pulling off yet another reverse sweep. Although the Uprising looked really bad on the control map played earlier in the set, Nepal was actually the perfect map for them to play on. Paris does not have a good track record on this map, but even so, this was yet another hard-fought and gritty map. On Sanctum, the Eternal chose to play the typical Winston Goats that you usually see here, while the Uprising tried to catch their opponents off guard with a bunker comp. Paris seemed to adapt to it very quickly though, since they actually won the first team fight. Boston did switch off of this after this loss, but it was going to be tough to take the point back. The Eternal were far ahead of them in terms of ultimate economy, so the Uprising had to lose a couple of fights in order to get them to burn some of these ults, while giving them time to charge up ults of their own. This disadvantage actually proved to be quite a nuisance. Paris kept the point under their control until around 85%, but even a hole as big as this one was not enough to keep Boston down. Nothing was going to stop them from mounting yet another incredible comeback as they came all the way back and won Sanctum. I would say that their play for the most part, maybe besides a couple of botched ults, appeared to be a lot cleaner than what we saw in Oasis. The team was firing on all cylinders, and I really loved the fact that they were consistently putting pressure on the Paris tanks. It felt like Danye and Benbest just couldn't stay alive for very long the entire round. On round 2, Paris showcased more domination early on, but then Boston came back with a vengeance yet again. After going down 73% to 0, RCK opened everything up for his team with a crazy clutch play. Cruz and his team knew that RCK had EMP, so he went into hiding in hopes to avoid the hack, then keep his team up with a sound barrier. But RCK decided to be a hero by discovering Cruz's location, hacking him, then translocating in to EMP the entire team. But even so, the Eternal would fight back eventually by retaking the point and even getting 99% capture progress. They were one team fight away from taking us to a third and final round on Nepal, but even that wouldn't be enough to save them. Boston won every single fight for the rest of the round. Give credit where it's due to RCK for landing 2 more big EMPs on this map. Fusions definitely deserves praise as well though, since he was able to knock down 3 enemies with his Earth Shatter during the final fight. After an action-packed 5-map thriller, the Boston Uprising finally ended their losing streak. It took a reverse sweep to do it, but still, the bleeding had finally been stopped. Shout out to Boston for having the mental fortitude to pull off yet another reverse sweep, even though they've been struggling lately. I have to give a lot of credit where it's due to Fusions, Blase, Color Hex, and RCK for stepping up in the second half and giving their team newfound life. Again though, you guys know how I feel about this. Boston cannot rely on the reverse sweep every single game. This opportunity won't be available against strong opponents. This team just has to get better. Also, rip Paris by the way. Stage 3 was looking promising for them at the beginning, but now they have to win their final game of the stage against the Seoul Dynasty, and even if they somehow win, they don't even have a very good chance of making the stage playoff still. It's actually a very small chance considering the fact that many teams ahead of them right now could very easily finish at 5-2 or better. Hopefully the Eternal don't let this loss get to them too much. They just have to keep winning as much as they can so they can at the very least make the end of the year play-in tournament. And with that being said, that is going to pretty much wrap everything up here, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy today's content, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.